You probably drink this every morning just to wake up. But did you know that hidden inside your cup is a history of wars, accidental discoveries, and cultural traditions dating back thousands of years? Coffee is more than just caffeine. For some, it's a sacred ritual. For others, a survival tool in the mountains of Tibet. And for a few, it's the most expensive dessert in the world, processed by the digestive system of a wild animal. Today we're going on a global journey, from the classic Italian espresso that started it all, to exotic recipes involving salt, butter, and even cheese. We're going to break down every popular type of coffee so you'll never look at a coffee shop menu like a cryptic code again. Fasten your seatbelts. This is the ultimate encyclopedia of coffee, and we're starting with the foundation of 90% of the world's drinks, the Italian base. It all begins with espresso. This is the bedrock of the entire modern coffee industry. Its name comes from the Italian word for pressed out, which perfectly describes how it's made. It's a highly concentrated shot created by forcing hot water at high pressure through finely ground coffee beans. The ultimate mark of quality here is the crema, that golden layer of foam on top. It's made of coffee oils and carbon dioxide bubbles that lock the aroma inside the cup. Everything affects the taste of a perfect espresso. The grind size, water temperature, pressure, and even how hard the barista tamps the coffee puck. In Italy, it's not just a drink. It's a quick morning ritual, usually downed in a few seconds while standing right at the bar. But if a classic espresso isn't intense enough for you, there's the ristretto. In Italian, this means restricted. You use the same amount of coffee as an espresso, but only half the water. The secret lies in the chemistry. The brightest floral and aromatic notes are the first to be extracted from the beans, while the bitterness and extra caffeine come out later. The result is a thick, syrupy shot with a slightly sweet finish, often served with a glass of cold water to cleanse your palate before the first sip. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you'll find the lungo, or long espresso. Here we let much more water pass through the same portion of coffee. Don't mistake it for just a diluted drink, though. Because of the longer brewing time, the water pulls out components that usually stay trapped inside the bean, bringing out more woody notes, more tannins, and significantly more caffeine. It's the go-to choice for those who want to savor the flavor longer, while getting a maximum energy boost. Now, if you want that espresso character, but in a lighter, less intense form, you have the Americano. This drink has a history born out of necessity. It's believed to have been invented by American soldiers stationed in Italy during World War II. They found the local espresso way too strong and bitter compared to the drip coffee they had back home. To fix it, they started diluting their espresso shots with hot water. Unlike a lungo, the water is added after the coffee is brewed, which softens the flavor without over-extracting the bitter notes from the grounds. As we move away from black coffee and into the world of dairy, we enter the realm of milk harmony, where the texture of the milk is just as important as the beans themselves. It starts with the cappuccino, arguably the most recognizable coffee drink on the planet. Its classic formula is a balanced trio, equal parts espresso, steamed milk, and thick milk foam. The name actually has a holy origin, tracing back to the Capuchin friars whose brown robes matched the shade of coffee mixed with milk. Another theory suggests the high, fluffy foam in the cup resembled the cappuccio, or hood, of their attire. If you're in Italy, keep in mind that this is strictly a morning drink. Locals believe that consuming this much milk later in the day slows down your digestion. If you prefer something much gentler, you're looking for a latte. In Italian, caffè latte literally means coffee and milk, and it's the smoothest option on our list. Here, 1 part espresso is paired with 3 or 4 parts steamed milk, which almost entirely masks any coffee bitterness. Because of its high milk content and thin layer of foam, the latte became the ultimate canvas for latte art, the craft of pouring patterns into the foam that started in Seattle in the 1980s and took the world by storm. It's the perfect entry point for anyone just starting their coffee journey. However, if you find the latte a bit too milky, Australia and New Zealand have a different answer: the flat white. The key difference here is the milk's structure. Instead of stiff, airy foam, it uses microfoam, a velvety, silky texture without any large bubbles. A flat white is stronger than a latte because it uses less milk for the same amount of coffee, allowing the true character of the beans to shine through. This drink became a symbol of the third wave of coffee, where the focus shifted to the quality and individuality of every single cup. For those who want to cut the acidity of an espresso without losing its punch, there is the cortado, often called a Gibraltar in the US. The word cortado comes from the Spanish verb to cut. The ratio here is a strict 1-to-1, equal parts espresso and steamed milk. It's usually served in a small glass so you can see the perfect balance between the dark coffee and the thin layer of creamy milk. It's meant to be enjoyed quickly, while that temperature contrast is still fresh. Finally, we have the most minimalist milk drink, the macchiato. In Italian, macchiato means stained or spotted. It's a simple shot of espresso stained with just a single dollop of milk foam on top. It doesn't make the coffee soft or milky, but it adds a creamy finish that rounds out that first sharp hit of caffeine. But coffee isn't always about the morning rush. Sometimes it's the star of the dessert menu. Take the Affogato, for example. Its name is Italian for drowned, which perfectly describes the process. A scoop of vanilla gelato or ice cream drowned in a shot of hot espresso. It's a beautiful play on temperatures and textures. As the scorching coffee hits the frozen cream, it creates a thick, silky foam. Traditionally served in Italy after lunch, modern versions often add a splash of liqueur, like amaretto, for an extra kick. If you're looking for a bridge between coffee and hot cocoa, you'll find it in the mocha. At its core, a mocha is a latte with chocolate added. The name actually traces back to the port city of Mocha in Yemen, which was the global hub for coffee trade for centuries. Yemeni beans were famous for their natural, chocolatey undertones, and eventually the name became synonymous with the intentional mix of coffee and chocolate we love today. For those with a serious sweet tooth, there's the Spanish café bombón. Originating in Valencia, its name translates to candy or sweet treat. The magic of the bonbon lies in its visual contrast. Espresso is poured over a thick layer of sweetened condensed milk. Because of the difference in density, the liquids don't mix immediately, creating a stunning black and white layered effect. You stir it right before drinking, turning the coffee into a rich, syrupy indulgence. A very similar version is a staple in Southeast Asia, known as kopi susu. Moving into the modern era, the coffee world has been transformed by new technologies and viral trends, shifting the focus toward cold extraction and unique textures. It starts with cold brew, which is far more than just iced coffee. It's an entirely different extraction method, where coffee is steeped in cold water for 12 to 24 hours. By removing heat from the process, you prevent the release of many bitter and acidic oils, resulting in a drink that is naturally sweet and incredibly smooth. Cold brew became a commercial sensation in the mid-2010s, offering a clean, refreshing taste that stays fresh in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. But if you take that cold brew and infuse it with nitrogen under pressure, you get Nitro Cold Brew. This is where the coffee world meets the science of brewing beer. Nitrogen bubbles are much smaller than carbon dioxide bubbles, which gives the coffee an incredibly thick, creamy texture and a dense head of foam without a single drop of dairy. Since it went mainstream around 2016, it has offered a dessert-like mouthfeel in the form of black coffee. Because of how the nitrogen interacts with the liquid, the drink actually tastes sweeter than it really is. Not all cold coffee requires high-tech equipment, though. The Greek frappe is a perfect example of how an accident can become a national treasure. It was invented in 1957 at a trade fair in Thessaloniki when a representative for Nestlé couldn't find hot water and decided to shake instant coffee with cold water instead. The result was a thick, persistent foam that has since become the ultimate symbol of the Greek summer. Today it's a staple of Mediterranean culture, served with a straw and plenty of ice. Finally, we have the Dalgona coffee, the first drink in history to become a global phenomenon purely through the power of the internet and viral videos. In early 2020, footage of people whipping equal parts instant coffee, sugar, and water spread across the globe almost overnight. The drink is named after a traditional Korean sponge candy because of its nearly identical golden color and airy texture. While similar beaten coffee recipes have existed for centuries in India, Pakistan, and Libya, this sudden wave of online popularity turned it into a modern icon for the home barista era. Beyond modern trends, coffee serves as a deep cultural anchor with traditions that have remained unchanged for centuries. It begins with Turkish coffee, one of the oldest brewing methods in existence, dating back to the 16th century. Extra fine grounds, almost like powder, are simmered in a traditional copper pot called a chezva, along with water and sugar. The defining feature is that it's never filtered. The grounds settle at the bottom of the cup, creating an incredible thickness. In the Ottoman Empire, coffee houses were the heart of social life, and the tradition of reading fortunes in the leftover grounds remains a living ritual today, turning every cup into a small prophecy. In Southeast Asia, you'll find the famous Vietnamese egg coffee, often described as liquid tiramisu. It was born in Hanoi in 1946, during a severe milk shortage. A bartender named Nguyen Van Giang decided to whisk egg yolks with condensed milk and sugar as a substitute. This thick, golden mixture is layered over intense Vietnamese coffee, resulting in a legendary dessert-like drink with a silky custard texture that is still served in the founder's family cafe to this day. Traveling to North America, the Mexican Café de Olla takes center stage. Its name literally means coffee from a pot, referring to the traditional clay vessels used to brew it, which impart unique, earthy notes to the flavor. The secret lies in the infusion of cinnamon sticks and piloncillo, unrefined cane sugar, with a deep molasses aroma. It's a warming drink deeply tied to Mexican identity, especially during celebrations like the Day of the Dead and Christmas. However, no tradition is as immersive as the Ethiopian Buna ceremony. As the birthplace of coffee, Ethiopia treats brewing as a spiritual act that can last for hours. The ritual involves roasting raw beans over open coals, grinding them by hand, and brewing them in a clay pot called a jebena. The coffee is served in 3 rounds, each progressively weaker, the first for pleasure, the second for contemplation, and the final round, called baraka, or blessing, meant to bring good luck to those drinking. Further west in Africa, cafetuba is considered sacred in Senegal. Its defining characteristic is the addition of Guinea pepper, known as jar, and sometimes cloves. This combination gives the coffee a spicy, slightly medicinal, and incredibly invigorating kick that you won't find anywhere else. Named after a holy city, cafetuba is both a daily necessity and a spiritual ritual for the local community. The final chapter of our journey takes us beyond traditional recipes and into the world of experimental and highly unusual coffee cultures. In the north of Europe, specifically in Finland and Sweden, there is a tradition known as kaffeost. This isn't just a drink. It's coffee served with cubes of bread cheese, or leipäjuusto, which has a dense and slightly squeaky texture. The cheese is placed directly into the hot cup, where it doesn't melt, but instead absorbs the coffee oils, taking on a delicate nutty flavor. Tradition dictates that you first drink the coffee itself, and then use a spoon to eat the coffee-soaked cheese. If you find yourself unable to choose between tea and coffee, Hong Kong has the perfect solution. Yuan Yang. This unique blend consists of 1 part coffee and 2 parts strong milk tea. The name refers to Mandarin ducks, which in local culture symbolize a union between 2 completely different beings. Originally a staple for the working class in 1950s street cafes, it has since become a true symbol of the city, offering a complex balance of tannins and caffeine in a single glass. The modern world is also pushing boundaries, turning coffee into a tool for biohacking. This led to the rise of bulletproof coffee, inspired by Tibetan traditions of drinking tea with yak butter. In this recipe, high-quality beans are blended with grass-fed butter and MCT oil until they reach a thick, frothy consistency. Supporters of this method claim that healthy fats slow down caffeine absorption, providing a steady stream of energy without the typical crash, making it a hit among fans of functional nutrition. Finally, we reach the peak of global exoticism. Kopi Luwak. This is the most expensive and controversial coffee on the planet. Its uniqueness comes from the fact that the beans pass through the digestive system of the Asian palm civet, a small, wild animal. The enzymes in the creature's stomach break down the bean's proteins, almost entirely removing the bitterness and giving the coffee an exceptional smoothness with hints of chocolate. However, buying this coffee today is also an ethical choice, as high demand has led to intensive farming and animal welfare concerns, sparking ongoing debates about the humanity of its production. The world of coffee is much deeper than it appears at first glance, from a simple morning ritual to complex cultural traditions and biochemical experiments. Every cup tells a story. Which of these varieties surprised you the most? Would you ever dare to try coffee with cheese or butter? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world of flavors. See you in the next cup.